And we're live to go through the second half of the Keirsey INFP profile, aka the Idealist Healer. And I've just noticed that Leon's got a little bit of art in the background there. Do you want to show us that painting, Leon?
Yeah, sure.
Go
on.
Ooh.
This one is this one's a bird.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it's a very playful bird, very kind of high energy, playful spirit, and
that sounds like one of Catherine's tri-types, the playful spirit.
Is that actually a tri-type?
I don't know, but it sounds like one, doesn't it?
It is.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's like the 479, the gentle spirit or playful spirit or something like that. But yeah.
So Bradley, you could tell the audience a little bit about your you being on the fence for a while about INTP, INFP in Myers-Briggs and various systems, how you sort of saw yourself.
Oh, well, I mean, what do you want specifically? Because there's like a bunch of long story. Basically, I typed, the first test I ever took, I came out INFP. And then I read like a profile of INFP and I was like, yeah, that sort of sounds like me. I just didn't question it for like a very long time. So basically the best I think I can do, or the quickly I can, the best way I can put it is that I have a 4 wing in the Enneagram, which means that individuality is a strong part of like, I guess it's not really I don't value in the same way like an FP or high FI user would, but I think authenticity is a very important part of my life. But I'm more likely to like suppress it in terms of I'm less likely to express my authenticity, but it's like always in my mind. And because depending on like the profiles you read, some of the profiles for INFP are pretty generic, and it just sounds like an INFP is just a fairy who loves everyone. I don't mean to. I don't mean to sound negative, but a lot of the nuance of FI is sometimes lost. So that's basically how I mistyped as INFP.
Right. Just, have the ability to just, I don't know if
someone who loves everyone, that's very much a compliment. So I don't know if that's like I don't even think that's an INFP stereotype. Someone appearing to love everyone. I think like an ESFP or ESFJ may appear at least to like everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like I won't go there. Like basically, what I meant to imply was that they are sometimes naive and oblivious to like ulterior motives in people, which is can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on like who you're around. If other people like are making space for you, then it's fine. But if other people are literally just trying to see how much they can pull from you before you say, okay, stop, then it's not so much a good thing. But I mean, I nothing like I like INFPs. I like NFPs. I like both ENFPs and INFPs. So
I think what you said is kind of true.
Yeah.
In a way. And also like a fairy like song like in a forest kind of like jumping around. I think that's also true too. It's kind of like how I spend my free time.
Yeah. So like I have a lot of I definitely have like a lot of fairy inside me that I used to express when I was like younger, but I sort of like suppressed it more and more, and now it's just sort of like in the background, and it's not always like on my mind. Like I used to be like daydreaming all the time, but now I just don't anymore. So that's why I thought it was INFP, because it's like these people like to daydream and they like to make people happy, and then when they're sad, other people are sad, and it's like that's sort of like me. So
So, Monica, you have been rumbled. What about you time traveling here? What's going on? You traveling back in time to the 1950s to star in this episode of Twilight Zone? Because it looks pretty much like you there. But I will.
You mean
move on.
the picture is
Yes.
like me?
Do you think it looks like you?
I'm not sure if I should be offended.
Which picture?
No,
Which
okay.
picture? What picture are you talking about? Oh,
This
the one on the
one's-
screen.
Yeah, the black and white one.
I don't think it looks like you. I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe
she has
still
bangs,
the
but
same. Maybe I can watch in a similar way. I can try like this.
Yeah, is it sometimes the expression like that?
No, it's like more dreamy, like more
Yeah.
spaced out. Like
Yeah.
I will do that.
I think the eyes are all wrong. The eyes are very different, but maybe like you have a similar like head shape. I don't know.
Yeah, that character's more ENF, more INFJ. Yeah, that was from Third from the Sun. Anyhow,
Yeah,
terrible.
too much NE.
Too much NE. I apologize to you, Monica, for that comparison. Right. Right then, so we're up to...
try to find some different picture with too much SE in it, and then we can discuss similarities.
Okay, maybe, but it's tricky with the laptop at the moment because so we have here. So, Leon, would you like to read through number 5 and then stop whenever you feel it's worth commenting on?
Okay, even so, healers find it difficult to believe in themselves and to trust themselves, deeply committed to the positive and the good, yet taught to believe there is evil in them. They come to develop a certain fascination with the problem of good and evil, sacred and the profane. They're drawn towards purity, but can become engrossed with sin, continuously on the lookout for the wickedness that lurks within them. Then, when they believe they have yielded to an impure temptation, they may be given to acts of self-sacrifice and atonement. Others seldom detect this inner turmoil, however, for the struggle between good and evil is within the INFP, who does not feel compelled to make the issue public.
Quite Catholic, isn't it? It's like Catholic INFP.
Can I perform in one of your plays now, Ben?
Well, if you want to, yeah. You want to set it up as well. Put it on and perform it all, yeah.
Can I ask a question for all the INFPs who are in the chat? I guess Sana too, since you sort of see yourself as a little bit of a Keirsey INFP, right?
Well, you can
it's
the INFP. No, MBTI INFP.
MBTI INFP. I mean, Keirsey INFP isn't too far off, but I suppose I'm more Keirsey INFJ.
Oh, got it. Well, I mean, the question can go to all the INFs. When I read this profile, I think when I'm reading good and evil, that comes off to me as like overly binary, like either one or the other. Is that something that you all resonate with? Like people are either good or they're bad, or you're either good or you're bad? Because to me that seems like overly simplistic, and I'm struggling to see people who actually think in those terms.
I think it's simplistic. I wouldn't really categorize people in terms of good and evil. Right. And I'll say, like, I would, my perspective on evil is it's like a label. So evil, I think, comes from a sense of desperation. So out of a sense of empathy I have for people who may appear evil is really they're doing things out of a sense of desperation and a lack of ability to find inner fulfillment within themselves, and that's why they would take from others. But I wouldn't say like good and evil.
Yeah, for me it's like I don't see people as only good and evil, but probably their action I can see more as good and evil, but I can also see all those reasons which can be behind this behavior. So I don't see people as this, but their their actions, yeah, it makes some sense.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I figure as much because yeah, I don't really see. I think when he wrote this, when David Keirsey wrote this profile, he was a bit too he caricaturized the INFP. Like
Yeah, it's like more of a character.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe better than good and evil. Better words are good or wrong. I can feel
Exactly.
something clearly that something is good or wrong, but I would never classify people as these.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. Thank you for sharing.
What about that final sentence, though, of paragraph 5 about the inner turmoil and not wanting to make it public?
I guess I could be self-critical. I could kind of have a struggle of what is the right thing for me to do, but I don't really talk about it. Like I'm kind of on the outside. I'm kind of chill with people, but inside I'm contending with my own character and the things I do, and whether it's I am concerned about ethics for myself.
You see, the thing is here, there's a historical context here where it puts, just with that bit there, yet taught to believe there is evil in them. So I'm thinking, like, if you're, like, say, a Catholic INFP, and you're taught that there is evil in you, so then sort of, like, set some of the context.
I kind of see, I could kind of, like, maybe, but also I kind of always see these in kind of tertiary FI types too. These are kind of have a more, maybe they have a simpler idea of what FI is. So like contending with the good and evil might be like what's sacred and what's evil. Maybe more of an INTJ thing or ISTJ thing.
I mean, it's go on, buddy.
Oh, sorry. Well, I will say that I did definitely have like a religious phase, like a few, maybe like 2 years, in my preteen years, where I did think like pretty I was of the opinion for a while that if you want to be good, then here's what you do, and if you want to be bad, then here's what you do, and it's like when you're in like church and people like telling you what's bad. I hadn't really considered what they were trying to say. So sometimes they took what they were saying too literally, and took the Bible too literally. So for a while, I thought that everyone's a sinner, everyone's going to hell. Of course, I didn't tell that. I didn't tell anyone. You're going to hell, right? But
whereas if you go to say those pastors, they're actually using the Bible for like to teach people. They're almost acting like substitute psychologists and counselors, where they'll pick something from the Bible and they'll sort of use it as inspirational life messages for people, metaphors to help them. Well, if you look at this, you'll see what they do. And so you can see the way they act. It's as if they are not taking it literally, but taking it as a divinely inspired text that contains truths. Some of them do seem to take that approach, and then there are those who take it literally.
Yeah, I think my problem is that I actually read the words of the Bible without them being interpreted for me, so I took some things pretty literally.
If you know what I mean, you've seen that even in certain dramas where the religious characters are written well. It's almost as if the religious person, say the pastor, would have a sort of a mature view on what's being said, and there seems to be a wisdom in it, but it's like, but not taking it literally. They can like stand back from the lessons of it and pick those sections that will illustrate what they are trying to teach.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, it depends on the sophistication of the pastor, where it sounds like, wow, this person's just really good with psychology, and they're using the Bible as the language of how to improve people's character. And so you can imagine, and so in the past, lots of NFs would have been attracted towards the religious field because it enabled them to use religion to help people, you know, psychologically, like say with confession with Catholics. I mean, there's actually acting as a counselor, aren't there? It says, well, this is what the Bible says, but then they will give them advice based on that.
How many of these paragraphs are you supposed to go through? Because I don't want to. 5 to 9.
There's only 9.
Okay. Okay. All right. And you want to go through the rest of the profile?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I would just think that I think this is within the context of when Keirsey wrote it. Oh, well, he wrote it in '98, but you know, it's a little bit. His impression, it depends on where he is. There are a lot of, you know, the majority of Americans are religious. So I would imagine that a religious INFP is going to think about the good and evil aspects in the Bible. And they're going to run it through their own ethics. And really, and they are maybe the type of person who would go to the pastor and worry about some of the things that were written in the Old Testament. And says, well, this doesn't reconcile with what Jesus said and things like that. They might be the type of person that wants to talk about those kind of things. Whereas maybe the guardians, they just want, look, just tell me the rules. Just tell me what the right thing to do is. I mean, are you a Christian, Leon? I think you are. I'm not sure.
Why do you think so?
I don't know. I don't know if you mentioned it on your profile, on your Facebook profile or not. I can't quite remember.
Maybe Annie thought so.
Okay.
You've imagined it.
Yeah, maybe I did. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we'll move on to paragraph number 6. Oh, here we go. Do you want to read it through, Leon?
Oh.
And again, if there's any particular bit you want to talk about, even if it's after the first sentence or third sentence, please stop and talk on.
Okay. In evaluating things and making decisions, healers prefer to follow their intuition rather than logic. They respond to the beautiful versus the ugly, the good versus the bad, the moral versus the immoral. Impressions are gained in a fluid, global, diffused way. Metaphors come naturally to them, but may be strained. They have a gift for interpreting symbols as well as creating them, and thus often write in lyric, poetic fashion. They show a tendency to take deliberate liberties with logic, believing as they do, and unlike the rationals, that logic is something optional. They may also at times assume an unwarranted familiarity with certain subject matter, believing in their impressionistic way that they know all about that, even though they never really mastered details. They have difficulty thinking in conditional if-then terms. They tend to see things as either black or white and contingency.
Well, there's a lot there to mull over.
I think maybe he got mixed up between an INTJ and INFP. Knowing all, I don't know if I give the impression I know all about that.
I think what he's getting at is NEing something. In that we think that, I think MPs can think that, okay, just give us the fundamentals of a subject and we can work out the rest. Mm-hmm. Based on that, and by comparing it to something else we already know. So it's like, oh, that's just like that. And then they assume that because it is just like that, then everything in it will be the same as this other thing that they already understand. And so they'll understand those bits that are similar, but not the other details. And so I suppose it's getting at that. Because I know I tend to do that sometimes by just concentrating on the commonalities.
You mean like any bluffing? Like I have like
you might do.
like
Yeah, go on, tell us a bit about that. Tell us about that, Leon. Any bluffing?
Well, filling the blanks. So like, was it someone with any could talk confidently about things, but then it's really they're kind of like improvising it on the spot. So other people are like, "Wow, you know this and that," but we're just like talking from our head.
Yeah, it's like we don't correct them. We just let them think that we know all these things.
I think maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't think I sound confident enough to say I know all about that. I kind of associate that with introverted intuition, like being very stubborn, because I tend to backtrack more than I need to about what I know. Because it's extrovert intuition, so it's like, oh, maybe it's something else, you know. I don't know.
Okay, so let's go with, we can go through this line by line. That first one, in evaluating things and making decisions, healers prefer to follow their intuition rather than logic. Is that true for you, Monika, or hell no?
Well, what about paragraph 5?
Paragraph 5.
No,
We'll go. There we go. Paragraph 5. There we go.
Because I thought that Leon will go everything right now from paragraph 5 to paragraph 9, and then, but okay.
Okay.
Oh, it was a little violent from me. I'm sorry. I only wanted to say to that paragraph 5 that the problem with evil inside, it was somewhere there written that it's evil. Yeah, evil within the INFP. That I think I wasn't or I wasn't grown with this feeling like being evil, but more like being that I made things not good enough. But if I had a feeling I made something evil, I was very tormented by it. And I think even if other people didn't think so, and if they were trying to comfort me, I still thought that I still felt very guilty. And I was also able to take some punishment, even if it was projected to my works, to my novels, and to my poems. A lot of them, I think that a lot of my first poems were concentrated on these sins and a need for some sort of redemption. Even if I wasn't religious, nor my family, they're also are not religious, but still these feelings were very, very strong in me. As someone from you who is in art, do you feel it the same? Leon, what about your music and...
In terms of my music, well, I usually play sad music. So when I play music, it's always sad stuff. So it's like, it's always about heartbreak.
Are you a 4, Leon?
What?
Are you an Enneagram type 4?
I don't even know. I don't even know with Enneagram anymore. So
Right.
I'm one of those. I'm one of the 9. I have deduced I'm one of the 9 Enneagrams. Right. That's all I know. Type 4. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I give off much of a 4 vibe on the outset. That's more like it's only like through music or writing then that part comes out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sad stuff. I know that. Okay, so thanks for return to paragraph 5.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That was interesting what you said though about the 5. Sana, have you heard it in Monika's answer there, and in what she said about paragraph 5? Is there anything that you would like to ask her about what she said? Any follow-ups you have?
Not at the moment.
Right. Okay. That was interesting what she said. Right. So number 6. There is so much in number 6, and that could be a hangout just in itself. Number 6. Both good things and some broad strokes in there. So what about
very broad strokes?
Yes, but I know what he's getting at though. I've marked it up. Right.
Yeah.
So what about that general thing though? Healers prefer to follow their intuition rather than their logic. What about in your case, Monika? Do you go more with your intuition or your logic?
I would say I'm trying to have both in it. Like when I do something, it just, and that's probably a reason why I can't just go with FI, like being stereotypical INFP, who is only going with their feelings, because I don't do that. It's not like I'm stuck thinking, and yay, I have this feeling, I have to do this. No, not at all. I need to have logic in it too. And I would say when I'm making some sort of decision, I always thinking about possible consequences and I'm trying to foresee basically what these consequences could be. And I'm trying to find or see those options, what could happen, and weigh not pros and cons, but just imagine everything what's in play or what's in that situation. So I definitely need some sort of reason behind.
I think Ben wanted to comment on that.
No, I was just saying that sounds like FI with NI, and it was part of the bit in the previous hangout we did today on the beta quadra. Does that sound like FI with NI to you, Sana?
Sorry, can you repeat? I was doing something else. What was the question?
Yeah, I was just saying if what Monika said there, if you say it again, Monika, then Sana...
Yeah, sorry, I was distracted.
Yeah, okay. So if you say it again, Monika, and then Sana can comment on whether she thinks it's FI with NI or FI with something else or different comment.
Okay, I'll try. I said basically that it's not that I'm going only with my feelings and that I need to have some foreseeing, or that at least I'm trying to imagine everything what happened or give some thorough analysis of that situation or of some problem, and I don't decide just by some gut feeling or by my feelings in the moment. I don't do that, and I need to have some reason or some logic behind that. I try to be this way here.
Yeah, it sounds like you are integrating NI into it, which is pretty much exactly what you just described. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and also I would say that with FiNx, the idealist healer being an introvert and an intuitive, and all intuitives tend to be abstract. So they're abstract in speech, they're abstract in thought. They're going to be thinking about their feelings. So
I guess the NI would give the appearance of logic for sure, like because we're not very reckless. So INFPs are not very reckless people. So
to a fault.
I think that gives So, but I think that kind of either gives impression of logic or is supported by some form of logic, kind of a form of logical thinking process that Monika was talking about.
Because I've thought about where does SE break come from in INTP and INFP, and I can only think of when I was going through Dario Nardi's inventory of SE. All the while I was thinking, this is stupid because this is reckless and impulsive, and I'm thinking about the consequences of what's going to happen. And it seems that Monika also does that. But if you're thinking about the consequences all the while, it's going to inhibit you from acting in the moment or even using or attempting to use a little bit of force, because you can see how things can escalate and go wrong.
Yeah, I think that this is actually something what's kind of protects you from being spontaneous. And that's the problem what I have with being INFP and MBTI. So I wouldn't say I'm a very spontaneous person because of that, because of this constant need to plan, even just mentally, or not plan, it just, what I saw basically, it's just imagining of all these possible scenarios. And it's prevent you from being spontaneous at the moment, I think.
Monika and Sana are good to compare because I think they're both 469 in tri-type. So interesting to see the little variances there when these other things are similar. Let's try that. So then back onto this. So we talked about what about that? The beautiful versus the ugly, the good versus the bad, the moral versus the immoral.
The mole versus the immoral?
Moral.
Oh, I heard like the mole, like the animal.
That's probably the way I slurred my
The
vowels.
mole versus all immorality.
The mole.
The mole rat versus the immoral.
We actually had a rat in a previous hangout.
Showed up?
It was Raquel's pet rat.
Oh, Raquel's. Okay, it's not some rat that's just running around Son's apartment.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a little bit of the stereotypical, but do you think that's a theme, Monika? Do you think maybe other INFPs?
Hey, right now I'm catching this paranoid wave, like all those peoples are mistypes, but never mind. So I think I don't know if I really know a lot of truth INFP, but I'm sorry. For me, beautiful versus ugly really isn't the topic because again, I think it's sort of shallow.
Yeah, it's probably a bit
way of seeing things.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. It seems like I have a lot of problems with these descriptions.
Well, that's the thing is, it's not just we are critiquing the descriptions at the same time. I mean, we're not looking at them as holy writ. We are also, and in critiquing the profiles, we're actually getting the deeper understanding.
Yeah, I think that from these more, what's speaking to me most is the moral versus the immoral, because I think that if someone do something immoral, it's something what really strikes me the most strongly. But beautiful versus ugly, I'm not very attuned to even notice these things. I don't usually think about this. I think there is necessary to be somehow responsive to your surrounding and to be part of the moment if you want to really process something what is ugly or beautiful. And I don't do that very much. I don't focus on that very much, even if it's poorish. So yeah, for me it's like that.
So for those next two sentences, I see that as extroverted intuition. And with the metaphor, Aristotle wrote about metaphor that it depends upon the perception of similarities. On that as the ability to, he thought that was the only thing that couldn't be taught was the perception of similarities. But you might have been another alpha glorifying any, even though he didn't have a name for it. That's what you get in the poetics. Impressions gained in a fluid, global, diffused way. Yeah, I can see that. Because it's the NE without the strong TI. But of course, TI can be developed, as in Monika's case. Then we get on to some NI here. Well, I'll ask. So, Leon, do you think that's true about impressions are gained in a fluid, global, diffused way? Because I'm not even sure what that means.
Maybe that sentence is kind of fluid and diffuse itself. I don't know what that means either. Believing in their impressions. Okay, wait. Oh, where is that? Oh, I see. Okay, impressions are gained in a fluid, global. Yeah, I think so, because that's like expert intuition. So you're kind of grasping everything holistically and not very detailed manner. So I would agree on that one. And I think metaphors, I could pretty easily think in terms of metaphor.
Right.
I don't know if they're strained, but then it's me, because I wouldn't know myself. But maybe someone else thinks it's strange.
Well, maybe that's the bit that doesn't quite come through to other people in terms of the way you understand the two things that you're bringing together in a metaphor is going to be slightly different from the way
I think metaphors seeming to be strained. I'm kind of like imagining an ENFJ actually, where they have like a very like their speech is like very poetic. So they have a lot of metaphors, but then sometimes the metaphors seem kind of forced. So I kind of associate that with ENFJs.
Interesting. That could be creative use of NE in the ENFJ.
I feel like a lot of ENFJs get mixed. Like people tend to think a lot of ENFJ celebrities are INFP because they're so artistic in their nature. Like, so they think that's all like FI stuff, but it's really FE stuff.
Right. No, either no comments in the live stream or Sana has banned everybody. I'm not sure what's going on.
I haven't banned anyone.
Nobody's commented yet.
At least I'm not so nervous. It was a good move.
Right, yep. We've got what about for you, Monika, with metaphors? Because do they come to you easily?
Well, I believe they are when I'm writing. When I'm writing poetry, I think it's that there are a lot of metaphors, and it's not a big problem for me to put hidden meanings into something. I'm not sure if these are like true metaphors, but I really like it to play with these hidden clues and hidden meanings in my works, not only poetry. But I'm not sure if I use so much metaphors in like daily speech. I don't know. It's probably up to someone else to judge this. I definitely don't try to have this like too complicated and mysterious full of metaphors speak.
I'm just gonna get myself some water. SI needs. I've got dry mouth because of the lamotrigine. So if you want to ask, so fill time, people, you for fill time with quality time filling. Maybe follow up on that without the metaphors.
But I have this experience that when I was younger, I always put something on Facebook, like something what I thought was just like normal sentences, and there were a few people who told me, "Oh, you are putting so complicated stuff in there," and I just didn't see it as complicated, or at least I really wasn't trying to. So.
Interesting. I see. So like kind of like the sentences are abstract to people. Like you're thinking, and it kind of I kind of have that too. But I'm not sure. I want to make sure I get what you're saying. But you said that you would write some things down and maybe you use some metaphors, and but for other people, it might be kind of abstract for them.
yeah, or they just don't understand me.
Yeah. Do you have a? Are you type 4 too? Do you have a type 4 in you?
Yeah, so there are people who think so, and me too. I wasn't very decided, and basically I think it's because of that feeling, if not, the self-esteem. It's not very big. So. And with this type, Enneagram 4, and also with, I don't know, INFJ, INFP, and those intuitive types, when you are reading these articles, you get a feeling that those people are like so rare and so unique. And if you don't have very great self-esteem, you don't know if you are good enough to be among them or to be a part of this group. So for me, it's still sort of hard, like, to say, yeah, I'm definitely type 4, because it's the synonym for me that you are original and you're unique. And who am I to say that about me?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate even with like the NT stuff, like especially in Socionics, where alpha NTs are like super geniuses, and I'm like, I'm not a genius, so I'm probably not an NT.
You should see the Keirsey ones. They go even further with for the Keirsey INTP, makes it look like a real genius.
Yeah, that didn't help me type myself either. I was like, it's like half of the profiles like talking about who was the guy who the introduction to INTP was talking about like the guy who invented planes for the Japanese, like the US wouldn't take his plans, so he went to Japan, something like that.
Was that in the Keirsey one? Was it about the zero? Was it in the architect? Was it the designer?
Yeah, it's the architect. No. It's in Please Understand Me Too.
Oh, right.
But it's before they go into like the proper profiles like this that we're looking at. It's like a summary, and INTP. He literally used someone who made like this grand design. He didn't do that for any of the other types. So it's you have to be careful when distinguishing between when Keirsey is talking about the type and then when he's talking about the role enactment. When sometimes he'll talk about INTP, or when he's talking about the act of designing as the designer. Yeah, I mean, but just in this context, I totally get what Monika's saying about feeling like you're not good enough to fit the profile.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of the type that you're supposed to be. So
it's like that with descriptions of the 8, though. I mean, it makes the 8 look like an alpha person, and there's lots of 8s out there who are not like the description of the 8, but at least it has different health levels for them. The Keirsey ENTJ profile is another one of those super types that you get.
I think it's also interesting how many articles and how many these articles in various discussions are only focused on every people who wants to feel special to type a sim profile, and they are only accusing these hypothetical mistypes who has these like evil or misguided impressions. They are these rare types, but I think that people are really oblivious to another group who has feelings like they are probably like they are not good enough to fit a profile. And I think that we are not the only one, that this part of people is also, it's a big group, but obviously it's like the community don't notice, and that they notice only those people who want to be special and who faking themselves into fitting the profile.
Right. Mm-hmm. No,
I agree. I mean, they could do better at showing what. I mean, Dario does it a little bit with functions in his book 8 Keys to Self-Leadership, where he shows what does this function look like when it's misused. And so maybe they could do what does the average person of this type look like? What does the accomplished person look like? And then the less healthy. That would help.
Got some any innovation going.
Yeah.
Any innovation.
Well, you
I'm
can do
looking
that,
at the sentence. Yeah, I was just looking at the sentence. They have difficulty in conditional if-then terms. Remember, we are what's it? INFPs are causal deterministic.
Yeah.
And they say that is our thinking styles. If-then.
Well, no, it's more like.
That's like they actually use that phrase for the causal deterministic.
Yeah, but the reason why he gets to that is, and it's very deductive thinking from Victor. It's because EII is a positivist and they're a process type.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost as if they're very positive about their linear way of thinking, and TI plus is very linear. So it's like logic of uniform structure.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that in when you've got an INFP resembler, an EII resembler, and they are articulating a moral system that they really believe in, then they are going to like be quite rigid to that at that point. But they can also be, depending on their mental health and their ability to adapt their theories, because if they have got well-functioning NE, then other ideas and other options will occur to them. They're not going to be as rigid as, say, SJ is in it. The healthy INFP, in my opinion, is open to lots of different opinions and angles and things, yet they still have a ethical core of what they believe, but they respect other people's positions as well. That's what the impression I get. So I get that impression from you, Leon, that you're not about to come out and say, no, you're wrong, you should believe this or you should believe that, that you know what you believe, but
no, Ben, you're wrong. You should believe this. Another explanation.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Well, you're open to different points of view.
No.
Yeah. But then I can have my moments as well. I had a moment in a chat a couple of days ago when somebody asked the question, what do you think of spiral dynamics? And I went off on one about how I hated it. So I labeled that as me having an ESI moment. Mm-hmm. So I also can get political and like locked into things.
Ben, you're a bit off. No, never mind. That's not me. Never mind. Forget it. I was going to say you're a bit off camera, but I think that's just my.
Yeah, it's just a bit. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
The reason I don't like spiral dynamics is that it sort of puts types in a hierarchy, and it puts sort of, because what it is, it's one of these things where, so it basically, if it's about competition and aggression, you're right at the bottom, and if you're like Delta NF, you're right at the top. And I don't like the whole idea of putting various types in a hierarchy. That goes against the whole spirit of, in fact, it goes against the whole spirit of Socionics and MBTI and Keirsey. I mean, the spirit of MBTI is gifts different. She even called the book that. And I think the idea with Socionics was also to get people and help them into be the best person they can with their own particular gifts. And certainly the same with Keirsey, it was to, and Keirsey actually wrote that the type that he can help more, the temperament he can help more than any others was the artisans. And he said that's why he talks about those more than any other, because it was those that he thinks he can help more than anybody else. And that's probably based on his own experience with working with juvenile delinquents. He just felt that they need the help more than, or rather he can help them more than he can help the other temperaments.
Well, that's interesting, because I'm also like him. I'm also expert sensing polar, right?
Yeah.
I feel like even people seek their polar function because they see their inferior function and their polar function as being the weakest. So that's actually where you need the most help in. Actually,
yeah, and with him, because we have to take into account the backstory of the people who are writing these things. So with Dario, I I point it out to people, he's very gamma. And with Victor, the way he views extroverted Sensen can be quite biased as well, especially when it's SE minus. So it's all power sensitive subordination. And then at least he puts a brighter side to it when he says that for ESFP it's power sensing of resistance. So that goes more towards them being rebellious and about freedom. So that's perfectly fine. At least it's not power sensing of subordination for all of the SE ego types. But the backstory of Keirsey is that he worked on the farm in the Great Depression, and then he was a fighter pilot in World War II. And his parents were artisans, and his brother was quite ESCP in terms of being quite aggressive. And then after World War II, and he said that he didn't enjoy World War II. He didn't enjoy all the fear and the danger and being a fighter pilot. So then after World War II, he does a psychology degree on the GI Bill. And then he was working with juvenile delinquents on this place that was called the Ranch. But it was being a counselor to these troubled teenage boys. And then he went into schools and was dealing with these troubled schoolboys and how to help them and their parents. And then he was actually training counselors. And that's where he trained. And then a couple of decades later, he was training counselors such as Linda Behrens. And so he knew about Kretschmer, and he knew about how temperaments can go wrong. And so it's like an Enneagram. When the artisans become unhealthy, they go a little bit like the unhealthy eights. Things like that. These kind of themes. And so he then taught the theory of temperaments when he was teaching the counselors on his courses, and he was trying to find, and then eventually he did the book in 1978, Please Understand Me, and then that was a big seller. And then 20 years later he came out with this book, Please Understand Me Too, and he added the stuff about role variants and 4 different kinds of intelligence that are associated with the temperaments but not exclusive to each temperament. So
it's quite the history. You got all your SI down on Keirsey.
Yeah, I was listening very carefully. It's like that's all accurate. That's all accurate, and that's what happened. I was like, And you managed to link it back. You managed to link it back.
But so Bradley, though, I think you read the Tactical Intellect. I think you said that it's accurate for your siblings. Is that correct?
I read the my siblings with ESCP and ESFP, and I read the Tactical Intellect, and I read the profile of at least the summary profiles of both types, and they're both pretty spot on. So
yeah,
I'd say he knows the SPs pretty well, and he doesn't need to embellish them as much as the other types because he has a more realistic portrayal of what they actually are.
Yeah, and he highlights what they're good at, and he always tries, and like I said, that's completely different from spiral dynamics, which puts people as a hierarchy, and you always get the impression that the idea is to change yourself into a delta NF. Well, that's not for all people, and in fact, you could probably make people feel bad. So I don't like spiral dynamics. It's not good.
Yeah,
right.
We have how many? 9 paragraphs?
Yeah. Let's go to 7.
Chugging along.
So here we go. So symbols then. A gift for interpreting symbols as well as creating.
No. Let's go to paragraph 7. I think we spent too long on 6.
All right then. But all right. All right then. I will accommodate. Yes. Oh yes, because Leon's got to go at 8 o'clock our time. So yes, paragraph 7. I'll just quickly for the audience. I'm just going to put this on for 5 seconds. Right, that's what Keirsey wrote for INFJ. If you pause that, so this is like the symbol stuff for like Keirsey INFJ, and then we're going to go back to this one. I did press it. It will change in a moment, and then we'll go to paragraph, so people can, just to show that I think that's just a little bit of NI there, interpreting symbols, just a little bit of NI. But on to 7.
At work, healers are adaptable, welcoming new ideas and info, are well aware of people and their feelings, relate well to most others, albeit with some reserve. They dislike telephone interruptions and work well alone. They are patient with complicated situations, but impatient with routine.
Oh, is he frozen?
I think he might be.
Oh, Monika, do you want to continue in the
Okay.
narrator mode?
With routine details. Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back.
He's back. Yeah.
Okay.
Am I frozen, or I'm just like sitting very still?
Yeah, go on, Leon. If you,
Okay.
where did you get up to?
Okay, there. Impatient with routine details. They can make errors the fact, but seldom the feeling. INFP's career choices should tend towards the ministry, missionary work, social work, library. Oh no.
Hey, Monika, you take that badly.
Not library. Research, tutoring, child counseling, college teaching in the humanities, and away from. I accidentally read the word laziness. I read from business and away from business. They seem capable of applying themselves scholastically and to gain the necessary training for professional work, and often do better in college than in high school.
There we go. He's giving them some points there for the intellect. Even though he said that they had problems thinking before and taking liberties with logic, he has actually shown that they have academic ability. So it's not too stereotypical. But I think generally, interestingly enough, ENFPs can do quite well in business, because they just have that weird shift where they act like an ENTJ. But it's usually business that involves people. Right. Go on, Monika. What do you think of this paragraph there, number 7?
I have only probably that, the library is a really questionable part. I will tell you something about that later, in case that some my guys, some my bosses are watching this video, which is highly improbable, but still. I think I like to work alone, and I always did. I really hated these working in group and these team challenges or team activities. It was the most easiest way for me to do the work just alone, just to come up with idea and then make it quickly, just to don't have to be there with those people and don't have to cooperate, and just do that by myself. And I really would like to work alone, but it's not an option, unfortunately. I mean, I think I can be cooperative, but if I would have a choice, I would be totally fine with just working alone. And that's the reason why I also like research, and why I think I made a good job at university, because there was just, I was there just on my own, and that was great.
Right.
Yeah, and away from business, yeah, definitely. I don't have anything in common with business. I think I would be terrible in business. I'm really not good at trying to sell something to someone, and no, it's not really a good option for me. So from these possibilities, research is the most interesting part. Actually, this social work and this working with children, I've been there. I studied social work. I'm not sure if I told you about this, but I studied it for 2 years, and I think it was, well, I think it's very necessary, and it's really good. How is that word? It's really gorgeous. And I'm sorry, I need to Google this word because
That's fine. We're not averse to a live Googling. I can just say what you said there about TE. Well, in terms of business, the business part of TE, I would think that there's an example of temperament getting in the way a little bit, where when it says they're away from business, but if the business was in a sort of NFE area, say helping people, or it was a typology associated business.
Yeah, I think it's something with inspirational thoughts, or at least if it's with thoughts which are interesting for you and you would like to share them, for example, then it could work. But nothing like a really real direct business, nothing to do with hard coins or things like that. And I already found the word noble. I think it's very noble, social work. But honestly, to me, it felt like very down to earth and too much practical work. And I didn't feel comfortable at it. I enjoyed the theory, but really work with those actual people and their actual physical mood, it was hard for me, and I didn't feel very comfortable, and that's the reason why I would feel better as counselor or psychologist than doing the direct social work.
I agree with that. I think social work involves a lot of finding a lot of practical resources, and I find that very very tiring. I like to work on a one-to-one with people or as a group, or I like the art therapy or engaging their mind or their heart. So those kind of aspects. But like the other things, social work is kind of it's more challenging.
That's a hangout we could possibly do in future on art therapy, because Sanna's also interested in that. So there we go. A little bit more after being a little bit rude about the INFP in terms of liberties with logic. It's then got, well, they can be scholarly, and then is there anything else to say? Baddy, have you got anything to say on paragraph 7 or that part of paragraph 7?
I mean, I haven't really had any INFP coworkers. Well, I had one. Actually, I had one INFP supervisor, but I haven't really observed it that much in the workplace. But I have, I do know that INFPs can do like really well, like in business, because I have but my good INFP friend, she's into makeup, and she's a pretty good salesperson at Nordstrom, which is sort of like a fashion retail, I guess. I don't know. But basically, she sells makeup in a retail store, and she tends to make all of her sales goals. And she's also a self-employed makeup artist, and she has her own business, and she's pretty well networked in with the. She lives close to LA, so she's pretty well networked with like the happenings in LA, and she knows a lot of people, and she knows people who knows people. So she's really good at networking that way, because makeup's a passion, and she cared about it enough to go through all of like the boring TE stuff. So she's really doing well.
I see it. There's an example there of a developed person.
Oh yeah, you got it. Well, this doesn't prevent me from trying hard in business.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
there are actually difficulties with it, yeah. But
Yeah, I mean,
I'm approaching from any expert intuition standpoint. I think that aspect of business I could get, like in terms of ideas and opportunities and then possibilities, and then being able to sniff out and have a good nose for these kind of things.
yeah, I mean, you are monetized, and you're trying to monetize your interest in psychology, aren't you, Leon, with your life
Yeah, like
coaching
my
and things
YouTube
like
channel,
that?
it makes like $1.50 a day. Yeah, rolling in dough.
Right. Move on to the next. Unless, have you got something to say about this, Sana?
No, not specifically.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm kind of very tired after the.
Yeah, that's
hour.
okay. That's okay. We're on the final page. Oh, looks like I've gone. We'll go over that later on. The thing about something I wrote there about FI and all the NFs and how it's used, in my opinion, but that it's quite strong in others, even if it's just in terms of information.
do you want to do the rest of 7 because there's a bit more of the
Yeah, there's a bit more
paragraph
7.
bit, right?
Right, do you want to read that, Leon, or should I read it?
No, you can read it.
Okay, other NFs. Something about other NFs. What was that?
I like the phrase mating role in their mating role. Something funny about it.
Yeah, what we got? Number 7. They have a natural interest in scholarly activities and demonstrate, as do the other NFs. I pressed it. It's just a little bit slow on the laptop. A remarkable facility with language. Often they hear a calling to go forth in the world to help others, and they seem ready to make the personal sacrifices involved in responding to that call, even if it means asking their loved ones to do likewise. Yeah, that matched with the Launcher SI thing in Victor's humanist profile. Alleviation of discomfort. SI minus launches their FI pity. Or maybe I should have put compassion, but I couldn't fit compassion in.
What's a reason to put in a completely separate word?
The first thing I thought about making personal sacrifice and responding, getting loved ones to do likewise, I think is for my loved ones to feed me while I pursue my personal sacrifice for my calling. I don't know.
Here we've got some ethics of relations stuff.
That sounds very INFJ too, by the way.
Yeah, any NF in general, and that's, like I said, the other NFs.
Something that really strikes me is the personal sacrifice. It's like that's like very. I mean, it could be INFP. First thing I think about is INFJ. Like this.
Yeah. If they're 9-ish,
sacrifice for the goal, for the mission.
Yeah, it's a general NF thing. I think we've got some interesting stuff. In their mating role, healers have a deep commitment to their vows. They are loyal to their mates, and while they may dream of greener pastures, if they stray into those pastures, they soon locate the nettles. Interesting. They like... What does he mean by that?
Oh, I totally see that.
Go on, you explain it then.
I see, like, wow, living...
I know what the metaphor means, but what does that look like in real life?
Oh, I was about to explain the metaphor, but I think you know what it means. Okay, well, like, yeah, seeing, like, having an idealistic picture, and then you actually you run into the realities of it, and also, like, INFP being a very self-critical type, you tend to notice all the problems, I guess, like a lot of the problems or the nettles.
Monika, do you have any?
Go ahead.
Monika, you might be a good person to talk about I forgot the rest of paragraph 7 at the top there. Written. How many novels have you written, Monika?
Many.
Oh, wow.
No. I mean, only a few of them are published. So.
Ooh, only a few are published, but there you go. That's still good.
Yeah. So remarkable facility with language. I'm not sure. I hope so, but I think that it can be changeable. Depends on a lot of things. I don't think this is something what you are born to. You can practice it, or you can go out of practice. So I think it's not a stable thing. Maybe someone can have a bigger talent for it, but I still think that you can do a lot with this, to a plus side and even to a minus side. So.
Yep. The craft, the arts and the craft of it.
I see Keirsey expressing a lot of type for himself, like how he's like so poetic in his writing.
Well, the thing is, when I asked, is part of that might be the editor. That's what the son said. So the real Keirsey probably more in personology.
Okay.
Because there was some help from the editor, because I asked him about these descriptions and he says yes, some of them was added by, was it the guy that helped with the book, the editor of the book, maybe be more responsible for some of the more poetic sections. I don't know, but he did read a lot, Keirsey. So
it's like kind of like Shakespeare or something.
Yeah, it is well written. I mean, it's easier to understand than personology. Personology is a real INTP book, and it's tough for me to understand. What about that, Monika? Often hear a calling to go forth into the world to help others.
I think I did, but that lately I'm probably deaf. No. I think that I was more like this when I was younger, and I think it's a part of that idealism, because it's also connected with that self-esteem, which is not always very optimal or very ideal. But sometimes I just think, if I really am the good person who can save them all, because you also need to have some sort of faith in yourself, to think you are some kind of a hero, and to think that you really matters and that you can do something like really great for the world. So I think this can change a lot through time too. But when I was younger, I definitely had these feelings toward like I can really change something. But then I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a bit here. They like to live in harmony, and they go to great lengths to avoid interpersonal conflict. And then I've made a note there about, it looks like the FI and FE aspects of harmony. Oh, and that's where I've done this note here about how FI and FE working together in NFs. So ENFJ, as we said there, because we had an example of somebody who resembles ENFJ, Raquel, in the previous hangout, where she's got this FI information in the background, but she's going towards other people's opinions. And she says she usually goes to about 7 people to help her out with decisions. So again, ENFJ, high info for FI. INFJ, or IEI, creative FI. So again, it's still strong. ENFP, demonstrative FI, again, strong. And INFP, lead FI. So you can see that for all NFs, FI is pretty strong, even if it's not really acted on in a showy way. It's there in the background with ENFJ, and it's the creative function. It's 4-dimensional with INFJ. Yeah, I added a little bit of SI in with harmony, because I think that SE is a little bit, SE likes conflict a little bit more because you've got the competition aspect of it. And I think SI valuers don't necessarily want conflict as much. Although ESFJs and ESTJs can have their moments, can't they, Bradley?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I can.
So the strength of the creative function. On harmony. In MBTI, this is more FE and FI in staying true to yourself. In socionic harmony is more FI when it's close relations. All right. Just my thoughts on that little thing there about harmony. There's a little bit of SE break there. Go to great lengths to avoid interpersonal conflict. Is that true of you, Monika? You've turned into a unicorn. I don't know if... Leon, I'll ask you. Oh.
I'm
Monika.
here, but I'm sorry. What did you say?
So what about that bit there where where it says they like to live in harmony and they go to great lengths to avoid interpersonal conflict?
Great lengths to avoid. I'm not sure. Yeah, sure. I prefer harmony, and I prefer to avoid conflict. But also there are situations when I think that it's more necessary to actually say directly what's wrong. Or I think that if you really want to solve something, then it's better to solve it. Then you have to speak about it and you have to really do something about it, not just to avoid it, because this avoiding, it can get things worse.
I'm going to give you some TE points for that answer. Solve the problem.
So I think I go to great lengths to avoid interpersonal conflict myself. I don't engage in conflicts.
I think that if I really don't care so much about these people, that I don't have a problem with avoiding. It's more easy, more comfortable to avoiding these conflicts. But when there is someone who I really care for, and if I really care for this relationship, and I think it can be endangered by not discussing the problem, by not solving it, then I think it's better to risk the moment feeling of some fight or some arguments, and that it's more important. I mean, it's something like you sacrifice some good moments at the moment for a better future, which you can have by discussing and solving the problem.
I think there's some in this sentence here.
That seems that's definitely very balanced. So that's pretty balanced. For me, I go to great lengths to avoid conflicts at all costs.
This one, hey, you could be 9-ish. We could do a hangout with you, Leon, on your Enneagram type. What do you reckon about that?
I believe I'm all Enneagram types, except
for
the
9. Then the 9. You maybe could be quite 9-ish because the 9 has elements of many Enneagram types. So we could at least do a hangout where Jonathan tries to type you, and then you can critique Jonathan's typing, but you wouldn't argue with him too much because you don't like conflict.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, but at least be a way to critique the Enneagram as a system. This I see as FI over FE. They are sensitive to the feelings of their mates and enjoy pleasing them, although they may have difficulty in expressing interest and affection openly or directly. Does that match up, Sana, with Socionics theory? That bit there in blue, at least for EII, they're sensitive to the feelings of their mates and enjoy pleasing them, but have problems expressing it.
Do they really have trouble expressing it? I actually don't know, because I can't think of anyone that I've known in person
I like that expression. I love you, but it's none of your business.
Yes, that's extremely FI. Yeah, that is extremely FI.
I'm pretty affectionate.
I thought ethical types are typically all relatively comfortable with at least some kind of expression. I could be wrong about this.
I think with words they are, but maybe it's like...
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own way of doing it, so...
I mean, as we know, EII and Keirsey INFP can talk very well about feelings.
Yeah, which is also, you know, words are also an expression of affection, or they can be. So I don't know. This seems like a weird comment. But maybe it's true. I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe it's like, as you say, with the beta NS, they show their emotions more. And maybe with the INFP, they literally have to talk it through with people to explain what they're feeling.
It's not real.
Well, maybe it's because they do you think, Leon, that INFPs have to explain their feelings?
I think INFPs tend to, they talk about their feelings, like in terms of words, but the words seem like very kind of subdued.
Right.
That's what they do. And I think FI does at times appear cold. Because it can't, like, it doesn't turn on the FE all the time. So that's why it could appear that way.
Right. Monika, what do you think of that bit that's underlined in blue? I'll put my mouse. It should have...
Oh, wow. I think I've been told, in fact, that I overanalyzing people constantly. So I think I'm trying to be sensitive to their potential feelings, or at least what I imagine they are going through. I definitely try to be like sensitive to it. And difficultly in expressing interest. Yeah, well, the truth is that I probably don't express interest and affection like in a standard way, or, you know, like I was speaking about this earlier, that I'm not like very caring in traditional way, like preparing dinner or you know, things like that. But I would say I have my own ways how to show that, and that's it, I think. I wouldn't say I'm the typical people pleaser.
You go on.
Yeah. That's probably everything.
The next one there. Then stuff about general idealism and stuff there. Here's an interesting one. The bit in purple. Even at the best of times, they seem fearful of too much marital bliss, afraid that current happiness may have to be paid for with later sacrifices. The devil is sure to get his due if one experiences too freely of happiness, or for that matter of success or beauty. This sounds a bit fourish. Or success or beauty or warmth or knowledge. This almost pre-conscious conviction, I'm highlighting that with the NI colour, this pre-conscious conviction that pleasure must be paid for with pain can cause a sense of uneasiness in the INFPs when they marry. They may feel they must be ever vigilant against invasion and can therefore have trouble relaxing in the happiness of mating.
Yeah, I think this is connected to the Enneagram 4 and their feelings of abandonment, and that they are not good enough and they will be abandoned at the end of the day. And this is very true for me, and I have very early memory for this moment when I was saying to my mom that I'm afraid to be happy, that I'm afraid that it won't last, that I will lose the happiness. I think I was something like 8 or 9 years old. I really remember this. So
wow.
yeah, for me, I can totally relate to this. And it can probably looks like a little Enneagram 6 somehow, like fear of future. But I would say this is more connected to the loss, which is more Enneagram 4. What do you think, Sana, about this?
About fear of abandonment?
About this paragraph or the violet part and connection to 4 or 6.
Well, I had trouble understanding this, to be honest. It seems very sickish, kind of, and some kind of a fear. Like, why would this be a part of a type itself instead of some kind of a trauma? Like, is it really? I mean,
the first thing I thought about.
I mean, I will say that. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I just want to make a quick comment. The first thing I thought about when I saw your Ben, your purple highlights, NI minus.
Let's see what I put on there. Maybe I did put, yeah, creative NI minus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be, but I mean, if you take ILI, it's not like they're constantly afraid. They just see the potentials and then they can avoid them. So this one seems more like a fear, an emotional thing.
Well, the other is they see break as well. I mean, if you've got that, it's like when I did that thing before where I said it's the creative NI that's holding back the EII and the LII. And if you've got, whereas that's not the case as much with ILI, even though they are lead NI, although they can be trapped in that NI minus and not move forward, they can become too cynical about things. So
yeah, sure. It's just a little. I mean, maybe I just don't resonate it. If I feel something like this, I consider like something's wrong. Like,
right.
Yeah. But I don't know about you.
Right. It's one of these holistic things because he wrote the profiles holistically. So obviously it looks like some Enneagram themes have got in.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that because he's trying to observe the types as they are in practice, and some Enneagram stuff is gonna creep in because it's gonna show him the people that resemble these types.
Yep. Yeah, because as well as resembling INFP, they will resemble an Enneagram type as well.
Right.
And oh, here we go. These reserved and soft-spoken advocates are fierce protesters of home and family. Oh, protectors of home and family. And their home is indeed their castle.
I feel that way. It's like an FISI thing.
Yeah, that's a little bit like beneficiary shift as well.
It's like it's kind of that thing where imagine the third function is stronger in a narrower context. Okay, this is my family. So like with the INTJs, like these are the people I care for. I'm going to completely sacrifice myself. That's FI. And
right, that's great.
INFP, this SI, like I can't wipe my own ass, but then if I have a child, I'll be like obsessively trying to do that for them.
Interesting, because what you described there, Leon, is the beneficiary shift. where it goes tertiary, then primary.
So what do you mean? I become an ISFJ? Is that what it is?
Well, so you shift briefly under certain circumstances to acting like your beneficiary type.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
The idea is that it goes the tertiary function, so in your case, SI, and then the lead function, FI. And SIFI is the social mission block of ISFJ. Keirsey ISFJ.
Yes.
SEI.
Yes. Well, that means that we develop FE then. It was
not quite. It's within a certain mode of the SEI working one-on-one with people and attending to their needs. It's not really the FE as much, or if it is involved, it's not on its own. It's you know, it depends on the mode. Like, it seems that when INFJ is in the counseling mode, it's FI becomes more prominent or equal prominence with the FE. Right then. These reserved and soft-spoken advocates are fierce protectors of home and family, and their home is indeed their castle. Interesting, protectors, because protector is Keirsey's name for ISFJ. As parents, they are devoted to the welfare of their children, treating them with great sympathy. This is looking like beneficiary shift, treating them with great sympathy and adaptability. In the routines,
I just remember a piece I have. I had a very close friendship with an ENFJ, and then so like when we go to like how do I explain it? So, but then I kind of went to some sort of SI shift where it kind of went into like, okay, take care of my friends, food needs and all that, and then I kind of like struck his SI polar in a way. So
yeah.
What?
Did he see you as fussing about unnecessary details?
No, he was saying like, stop being my mom.
Right, there we go. So beneficiary shift is a thing. At least for Leo. Right. Okay, so no questions in the chat. Well, anything else? In their routines and daily living, INFPs tend to be flexible, even compliant with their mate's ideas of discipline, especially if their mate is ESTJ. And thus, they're easy to live with. Accommodating. It is a diplomatic accommodator. They will often give their children a voice in family decisions until their value system is violated. Then they dig in their heels and will not budge from their ideals. Life with a healer parent will go harmoniously along for long periods until an ideal is stepped on. Then they will resist and insist. That's good writing, resist and insist.
Yeah. No, that definitely sounds like me.
Right.
So actually, like the whole thing about avoiding conflict, I think that's like with most people. But then if it's like my parents, then I definitely see this. I kind of have these stubborn periods.
Yeah. Whereas ISFJ is more likely to go along with it.
They have the demonstrative FI, so I do see them kind of do that, like FI, like this is what I believe, my ideals kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely draw more of definitely draw a line in the sand more than like an ENFJ or an ESFJ would. ISFJ. So.
Right. I remember just like because my mom's an ESFJ and she says that because extrovert feelers, they initially come off as more like judging in a way, like they have all these evaluations and stuff. But then my mom says like if everyone starts to do something, and then she'll completely shift her perspective to match that. So she might be against it, but then she shifts it, and then she's suddenly like, okay, this is what everyone is believing in now, so I'm just going to go along with it.
Up to a point, but they can also have their moments where I think I sent Sana an ESFJ resemble on Facebook, and they went off on somebody who left rubbish outside of their house.
Oh, they do that, yeah.
They do.
It was two things though. it had like needles inside of it, and it was like dangerous to children.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. So really caring about the children not being hurt by these things, but also the impression of the fact that it was left outside of her house and the neighbors would think it was her fault. So she actually wrote about this on Facebook, and she really laid into the person. Really went after them. You are a disgusting person. Why would you do this? So it's like there's the ESFJ using the SE. There.
Yeah, I think the one time I saw my mom like really use SE against me, it's because I made her look bad in front of someone else. It's like I didn't send a phone call, and she I guess the person I was supposed to call complained about it, and then my mom really got angry at me, and it's like, hey, to me it didn't really make sense. I was shocked because I didn't know why she was getting so upset, because he'd never done it with me before. But I was just like, huh, what? But yeah, they definitely can do that, where they become very uncharacteristically harsh and judgmental.
Yep. Yeah. There's a little bit of that in the if you read the Keirsey ESFJ profile, I think you might relate to what it says about how the ESFJ can be with their children. They will pull them up if they feel that their children are not living up to their standards.
Okay, looks like I gotta go.
Right, okay then. We've reached the end with you, Leon.
Bye, everybody.
Right. We'll have a little bit of an extension with Bradley where he tells us what you think of the other paragraphs. And we can quickly go through. Bradley, you've gone into a blue head. All right. So you can tell us what you think. We could say for the first 4 paragraphs, we can get your thoughts on. So I'll quickly extend this one. Mending those divisions that plague one's private life and one's relationships. It means treating oneself and treating... Ben, you seem to have forgotten I'm an INTP now. But it'd still be interesting to get your thoughts on that paragraph. Oh, it's gone. Anyway, we might have to end. Right. So overall, Monika, now that you've gone through all of this profile, what do you think of it?
I just wanted to add to the last paragraph.
Go on.
That, I think I can be very flexible and adaptable until someone is forcing me to do housework.
Okay, sorry.
That's it. Monika just came up with a great line. Say it again, please, Monika, for Bradley's benefit.
I just thought, by the way, welcome back, Bradley. I just said that I can be very flexible and accommodating until someone is forcing me to do some housework.
Oh.
Then you will see my resistance, and it's impossible to win.
That's very good. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks. Sorry, I don't know what I missed.
But I'll just get your thoughts, Bradley, on the first 4 paragraphs of this. This one's a bit split, unfortunately, but you can see what it says there. And then when you've read those 2 lines, I'll go on to the next one.
Okay. Well, I've read it before, so this is more like a review.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can go to the next page.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go down. No, next page.
Right. Yeah, any thoughts on that paragraph? Paragraph 1? Just general INFP stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I'm not sure. I think like saying that all INFPs would think that oneness is what they call like being in alignment, I guess. That might be a little bit of an overreach.
Yeah.
But I get what he's saying about the high capacity for caring is very true of FI types.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. You could say it's because TI is in their super ego, so it's not. It's both unconscious and not strong. In Model A, anyway. In Model G, it can be either the role function or the break function, but we won't go too much into Model G right now. But more or less, FI is so much stronger than the TIs that capacity for caring is sort of like how they're wired, basically.
Yeah, and also say SI valuing as well.
Yeah.
INFP. Victor's idea that they're launched by because with a negative sign, it's like not so much maximizing comfort as minimizing discomfort. So it's almost like that's their filter, is discomfort. So it's like you can almost see it sometimes when they look at the state of the world. It's like, well, there's conflict here, there's nothing's there, there's suffering here, and like that's one of their filters, I would think, for INFP is looking for discomfort.
Right. Yeah, about caring about a few special people or favorite cause. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean that's all true.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then the second paragraph is there just about all the Fs, right? So
yeah.
It's mostly deterministic based on how you define systematic intelligence.
Yeah, they can do other kinds of intelligence as well.
Right.
It's just that the NFs are seen by Keirsey as the best at diplomatic intelligence because they're naturally predisposed to those roles. So, for example, the NFJs are naturally predisposed towards the mentor roles of counselor and teacher, and the NFPs towards those other roles.
Yeah, but the whole paragraph is just basically summarizing.
Yeah,
his own thought process.
That bit in the purple sausage or violet sausage, is about NFs.
Right. I'm gonna leave the roles and the role variants for now because
number three.
The three, yeah. I mean, that part really resonated with me. At least in my childhood, I very much believed in karma, where if you did good things would happen to you. And that sort of idealism is, I guess, what they're talking about, where they would see that what is honorable, as in, it's sort of what Leon was saying, is how people only do evil because they're forced into desperation and they can't be good.
Right.
So they're sort of forced to adapt to the unfortunate circumstance. And I see that in NFs, like in all feelers, but especially NFs.
I did a hangout with, and I suggest people watch it. It's a really good one. There was a hangout with Hannah just on this paragraph 3, where she talked about her ethics. So that's a good one, folks.
It is. I can testify. Like, I haven't seen the whole thing, but if you want to know more about NFs and what makes them tick, that would be a really good place to start. Because, I mean...
Yeah, she really felt it. When those things that she was talking about, she really felt it in the moment. She was being authentic about what she was saying. You could tell in a way. Yeah.
See, shaman, medicine, man, witch doctor, getting a bit too on the spooky woo-woo end of the NFs. But
I can't believe that Socionics calls ENTP Don Quixote when that's from quixotic, and quixotic means unrealistically idealistic when it's not practical to be idealistic. If you actually look at the definition of quixotic. So how does ENTP be quixotic?
I don't think. I mean, they're definitely not thinking about the symbolism of Quixote. They're definitely thinking about you know how some people in sociology are guilty of reappropriating words.
Yeah.
to make it fit like a certain ideal, and they're it's like sort of bad TE where things have objective definitions, but if they think it fits the concept that they want to portray, then they'll just use it without any explanation about. They won't try and qualify what they're saying or qualify their terminology. So
that is a fantastically interesting typological epistemological point. Please say it again, because we can hang out just on that. That's proper INTP stuff.
Yeah, it's basically well, I think it's more TE stuff. It's just generally socionics is very TI heavy, so they will basically reappropriate objective definitions to fit an abstract TI concept, and they won't explain a TI concept. They'll just use the objective definition as a way to represent a concept without trying to explain. They're basically trying to use a metaphor, but in using the metaphor, they are the label of the metaphor has its own meaning that's not metaphorical. So you're forced to understand the metaphor through the lens of the actual concrete concept, which everyone thinks is one thing, but you think it's something else.
Yeah, so for instance, it will use the metaphor of objects and fields.
Yes.
And people will take it literally.
Right.
And they don't realize it's just a metaphor. But
right. I think all typologies do that, but socionics does it like I don't know,
you got to watch it. I always have this suspicion with ENTPs, you know, that they're playing fast and loose with a metaphor in order to get the general idea across. Yeah,
and it's not necessarily like an FI, like not caring about it. It's just that it's more like the NIT thing of they have all of these concepts that they want to explain quickly and expediently.
Right.
So, you know, of course, the FI break is part of it, but in terms of like socionics, I think they generally aren't trying to, unless they're trying to, you know, like shove, you know, throw shade in other models, then they'll just, you know, do whatever they feel like. But in terms of trying to represent their own model in the best light, they want to do it quickly and efficiently, but the TE isn't unconscious, so they don't know how to do it objectively. Yeah, that's a whole other hangout. You're right.
That was great. You had a fantastic INTP moment there. You had a fantastic INTP moment there, Bradley. I'm proud of you.
Oh,
because that's a highlight, an INTP highlight. Listen to this insight. Right.
I can pick up where I left off. In terms of isolation and alienation, I think that's pretty fourish, and I think because all like the intuitive introverts tend to be fours or have four wings, alienation and isolation is very like INXX type of mindset. Childhood is then again gets into Enneagram, where it's you might be born your Enneagram type, but childhood wounding is very much a core part of Enneagram. So
that's interesting because that's a little bit different from Jonathan's point of view on it. So maybe we could have a future hangout on that, where Jonathan thinks that now. Oh, actually, what he said yesterday wasn't completely in conflict what you said. He just said that the upbringing used to be a bigger part of Enneagram in terms of, and then he said that a lot of Enneagram practitioners now think that you're born with your Enneagram, and you did see that, and you didn't actually contradict that. It's just that you added on that nurture's also important, maybe in how that Enneagram type is expressed or developed. So it's maybe like genotype and phenotype.
More or less, like basically the argument is that you're either people originally thought that, it was the childhood trauma that transformed you into your type. But I think now the popular, what most teachers think is that you are born your type, but your childhood sort of, the messages that you receive are received in your childhood. So even though you're born your type, the messages from childhood are still ingrained in you. Because, yeah, that's like the phenotype part, I guess. Of,
so Bradley, I've already done a hangout today, so maybe my brain's a little bit tired. So maybe you're in a better INTP mode to answer this question here about this one from Retro Gamer.
Let's see. Is he still in the chat?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right.
So it's,
I don't have good questions.
Yeah, why isn't there the Nardi representation of the Jungian two-part function process of perceiving, then judging in two consequent function?
Fantasy for your childhood, no explanation. Drives my TI crazy, disagree. Oh, okay. Hello, Retro Gamer. It's all early years. Okay, so the early years development is part of the Enneagram, and then the talking about ethical, honorable place is part of the Keirsey. So I guess I'll talk about the Keirsey stuff first. Yeah, it also sort of drives me crazy. I think you're talking about like function axis with like FITE and then NESI. It's pretty much like one note where it's one function isolation, which it's one of the things I don't like about typology is that everyone sort of agrees that the axes and polarities exist, but no one ever talks about them. So I very much don't know what it isn't. I agree with you, and I don't know what it isn't represented, but I'll go into no explanation. Yeah, I do very much agree. Like, I think he, in terms of like not trying to qualify what he's saying and just sort of like saying this is the type how it is. Oh, yes. Hey, Alex. Yeah, he's very much like he's not trying to explain the types in terms of functions. I think he might be alluding to functions because he's trying to anyway. I'm not sure how well he does it, but he's trying to exemplify a type as they are in reality. And of course, in reality, types have an Enneagram type and core motivations, and they also have cognitive functions which can very clearly be seen by some of the actions.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like he's trying to portray the type in the functions in Enneagram styles, but he's not referring to them as the functions. So the functions are sort of disowned, and he's just sort of giving you a straight profile. And I think it's because he wants to sort of appeal to, without trying to sound insulting, he's trying to popularize Jungian typology, so it appeals to senses, because lots of senses like aren't really into like cognitive functions, even though a lot of them are. A lot of them are very much into typology. Many of them are very much into, just the F and the T and the I and the E and just, they're all letters and all that. So this particular book is very much trying to appeal to like the
this popular, one is, yeah.
He definitely has other books, but yeah, this particular book is very much trying to appeal to like the very basest typology.
The basest typology. But an even worse word choice than basic. You are a base individual that does not like functions. But what it is it goes into something called systems theory, so there appears to be very sophisticated INTP reasons why he doesn't like functions. But you see, I would have to read up on systems theory in order to find out really what those reasons are. Linda Behrens alludes to it a little bit in her book, The 16 Personality Types, where she says that she learned systems theory from David Keirsey, and I think Dario might allude to it a little bit in one of the hangouts on SI, where he talks about the SE and SI motivators, and he gives a systems theory point of view on it. I know that Keirsey did write about, he didn't like the elementalism of Freud, and it's also his background, though, is Gestalt. So that's part of the reason why Keirsey did it the way he did, is that he was into the Gestalt way of looking at things as wholes and being a holist. Now, Wojtek thinks like you that Keirsey was secretly using functions. And in Please Understand Me, the original one, Keirsey did say that it's not so much that Jung's function types are abandoned, but they are subordinated to the concept of temperament. So it appeared that he liked functions a little bit in the original book. So how much of that is because I think he would have been, he was an INTP assembler, he would have been interested in it, but he might have also have had problems with functions as well. It's like with all these issues that we have with narrow specific definitions.
Yeah, I also think he's trying his best to, you know, present it as a closed system so that any wouldn't go all over the place.
Yeah,
because that's something that I do as well, is that I sort of retreat to like I guess the closet J, you know, that's in the unconscious, like I guess FE SI in our case, but that unconscious like J preference is sort of you sort of have to adhere to it, and we can't contain the NE. So if we can't like if we can't keep all the concepts, like if we can't like rein them in properly, right, and can explain them concisely, then we're sort of forced to omit what we can't fully explain, or in this case, he wasn't prepared to, I guess, polish. He didn't. I don't think that TI was quite polished yet, so he tried to, you know, polish off what he could and then publish a book about it.
Well, his main focus was on the level of temperament, rather than on in terms of what they wanted. And so it's like if you look at the chapter as a whole, it's like a lot of his depth was there at the level of motivation and self-image and things like that.
That's sort of the problem I have with this particular Keirsey book, is that his temperament stuff is good, but I think he does overreach when he talks about the types.
Yeah,
because not only is he, I mean, in the beginning of the book, he has a test which you know, will type you based on like the 4 letters, and then he uses the 4-letter codes and his terms interchangeably. So like the MBTI INFP is different from the Keirsey healer, right, but they both use the same INFP title.
Yeah.
So this is one of those TI things where he's using INFP, but it's different from like the MBTI INFP.
Yeah, part of that is the marketing reasons of just to make it easier for people to understand. Now, even Jack Aaron, though, he did a hangout on Pakoka's channel, and what did he say? And what did he call the types? He used MBTI codes for all the types, and he said, "Oh, I'm doing it to make it more relatable." And even Jack Aaron, he called the types by the MBTI names.
Yeah, because it's like the it's sort of like, to me, it's like it's the FE version of TE, to where it's like they want people to be able to understand them, but they disown that these concepts have like their own, they stand by themselves, and you can't just like attribute the freestanding concept to your own concept without any sort of sense.
So Bradley, you might know what Retro Gamer's writing here when he's written, doesn't the 3rd letter mean the mode P or J in MBTI to your knowledge? Unless it means it's being modified. with it.
Wait, sorry, say that one more time.
It says here, doesn't the third letter mean the mode P or J in MBTI, to your knowledge?
Third, doesn't the third letter mean the mode P or J? I don't really know what you mean by that. Are we talking about like the third letter in the MBTI code? Or
that's what I think he means. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
can you sort of explain what you mean by that? Because I don't really know what you mean. Because like the P or J is the fourth letter, right? So
yeah, that's the fourth letter in the MBTI code, and also, I mean, we can get it a fun. I mean, at least here we go. Oh, right. Oh, I got it. Oh, it's put here. E.g., INFP, F being the perceiving mode. No, it's not quite like that, because the JP refers to how they are interacting in the world. Actually, they shouldn't have used JP, because it's not actually. They should have used a different. You should have used different letters for it, because it's how the person interacts with the world. It's not actually the way Socionics uses JP, which literally uses it in the original Jungian sense of rationality, irrationality of the lead function. The INFP, FiNx is a perceiver because their top extroverted function is NE.
Hold on. I'm going to re-enter the call. I'll just give me like 5 seconds.
Okay. So I'll try and answer this. So I would say, even though there are perceiving functions and judging functions, I would say that in reality, those judging functions because you get a lot of interpretation as well with it. Here we go. Nadi describes Jung's use of the functions in the 4-letter type as described in MBTI. Yeah, but Jung doesn't use JP the way MBTI uses JP. Jung uses it in terms of rationality, irrationality. So, for example, he describes the NI and SI DOMs, and he puts that in as summary of the introverted irrational types, or recapitulation of the introverted irrational types. I've got it here. So here we go. So you've got recapitulation of introverted irrational types. So for there he means NI and SI DOMs.
Right. Sorry, I'm not sure how much I missed, but I'm getting a bit of lag, so I have to turn off my camera for a bit.
Okay. Sorry, you're getting a bit of what, Bradley?
Oh, I'm lagging a lot.
Right, okay, that's okay.
Poor connection, so
it's put there. No, so well, you can read.
Oh, sorry. You cut out just then. I didn't get what you said.
Oh, I just said you can read, so I don't need to read it out. You can see it on screen.
Oh, well, actually, I have to. I turned off all visual.
Ah,
so
right. Okay. I'll read
not only is my camera off, but I can't see anything.
Yeah. It says here. Nadi describes Jung's use of the functions in the 4-letter type as described in MBTI. Well, yeah, it's just the way the JP is slightly different. Oh, right. To perceive through what feeling presents is irrational, does that follow? Yeah, but...
Oh, no. I can't even hear you anymore.
Oh, that's it. Oh, yeah, but I think in this case, though, that okay, I can give you a different metaphor to try and help with this. NLP would say that people have different filters, and once Chad Crandall, Damon Gray, has described functions as metaprograms, and so you could say your reality is what you focus on. And so different Jungian functions will focus on different aspects of reality. And so an example of this was given in a book. In this book, Jung, a very short introduction, where he gives an example of a pub fight and the things that people focus on. So there is what somebody perceives and then also what somebody thinks about in the rationalization of it. So this was in the pub brawl. So I'll read through this. I'll just read through this and I'll show you. I'll read through this little bit, then show it on. Actually, I can show it now. Okay, this is funny. Actually, this is quite funny, and actually, it's a little bit of a spoof of INFP, in my opinion, in the way that they talk about what happened in the pub brawl, because it does loads of kinds of projections about the character of the people involved in the fight in the pub. Right. All right. Can you see that, Bradley?
Yeah. Okay. I think the leg's gone.
Right, and I'll read it out for others. An example will help to clarify what Jung meant by these three different functions and attitudes. Let us imagine that four people, a sensation type, a thinking type, a feeling type, and an intuitive type, witness the following scene. So what he means by intuitive type is an NI or NE dom. Two men come staggering out of a bar. They are shouting and swearing at one another. There is a struggle. One of them falls to the ground and bangs his head on the pavement. Each witness will respond to these events in a manner typical of his type. We will take each of them in turn. The sensation type will give the clearest account of what happened. He will have noticed the height, build, and general appearance of the two men. One was fat, middle-aged, and bald, and had a scar over his left eye. The other, younger, fair-haired, more athletic, and had a mustache. Both were dressed casually in t-shirts, jeans, and trainers. It was the fat one who fell, and it was his right temple that struck the curb. There was a crack on impact, etc. Right. Okay, Monika. We're going to go through this. It's quite funny when it gets to the feeling type. The thinking type interprets the events as they happen, working out what it all means. The two men come staggering out of a bar, so evidently they have been drinking. They are shouting and swearing at one another, so they are having a disagreement. A struggle ensues, so they must feel strongly enough to become physically violent about it. One falls to the ground, so he must be a weaker or drunker of the two. The latter cracks his head, so he may be concussed and in need of medical attention, etc. So you can see the amount of interpretation and speculation that has been added to that section there. So Bradley has just come back. Can you see that, Bradley, about the thinking type?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Bradley.
All right. Thinking type interprets this to happen, working out what it means. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I definitely resonate with it if that's what you're asking. I cut out for a bit, so I don't know.
Now this is where it gets funny though, with the feeling type and with the intuitive type. It really does get funny because you get a lot of projection about the character of the people involved in the fight. So here we go, the feeling type. If you read that out,
the feeling type responds to each event in the scene with value judgments. What's a sordid episode? What thoroughly objectionable people? That is clearly a bar frequented by louts and not a place to go to if one wants a quiet chat with a friend. The one on the ground may have hurt himself, but it serves him right. Yeah, well.
And then I see this as a parody of an NFP.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, if you read that out badly.
Intuitive type sees the whole story. Yeah, football hooligans who support opposing teams, disgusted by their bad language, the landlord told them to clear off, and this inflamed them to violence. The man who cracked his head is accident prone. This is just another incident on a lifetime of misfortune. He has fractured his skull and clot. He fractured his skull and a clot will form in his brain requiring surgery. He will be off work for weeks, and his long-suffering wife will once again have to struggle to make ends meet. Wow. This is what happens to people from a poor culture, from poor cultural background.
Who have nothing else but football.
Drink. Oh my goodness. You'll have to show us to a nap and see what they say. This will go on happening. And then it will get much worse. Yeah. Because we do nothing to change society, improve the education. Yeah, okay.
So you can see here that like similar observations, thoughts, value judgments, and intuitions to those just described are available to anyone who chanced to witness this episode. But Jung's point is that each of us will characteristically tend to emphasize one functional mode in monitoring the events rather than the other three. Habitual use of this mode is what determines one's functional type. Interesting phrase, habitual use. Moreover, how one responds to the episode will also be determined by one's characteristic attitude. An extrovert being more likely to intervene, render first aid, drag the assailant off, call for an ambulance, etc., while the introvert will be more prone to observe, record, and inwardly reflect on what has occurred, preferring to leave it to someone else, i.e. an extrovert. That's quite funny. Or an official whose job is to do something about it. So this guy was a Jungian analyst, Anthony Stevens. I just thought that was quite amusing. That little tale there. I thought that was quite amusing. And I thought it was quite good. So the NFP one was the intuitive one was a little bit exaggerated, but I did like the distinction with the thinking type, like in the use of the logic there. Bradley, you appear to have paused. Right then. Bradley has paused. I think it was probably time to wind up. So then, I will ask Sana. So how has this hangout been, Sana?
Sorry, I've been eating.
That's okay.
Well, it's fine. I am very tired, so not.
That's fair enough. I'll put it differently. So you've not heard too much that you would disagree with if you had more energy?
Nothing that I could bother arguing with when I have no energy.
Right, fair enough. So that's high praise, folks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the hangout now because I've got another one, a third one, and this will be reviewing the Twilight Zone. All right then.